Welcome to another episode of Digital Dexterity. I'm Wes McChristian here with Americaneagle.com. Today I'm joined by a good friend of mine, Roel. Roel, do you mind introducing yourself real quick?
Yeah, obviously. My name is Roel Kuik. I'm a Kentico practice lead at Aviva Solutions, and we are a Dutch-based gold Kentico partner.
And some of you may recognize Roel. Roel's been on the show with us before. He's also a fellow Kentico MVP, and this year you earned another honor. You're a DXP MVP as well. Do you want to maybe
Absolutely.
plug that real quick?
I think maybe 6 months ago, the initiative started to create a community that focuses on digital experiences. And obviously, as you know as well, we do a lot of work building better digital experiences for our clients.
Right.
So based on all of the things that I was involved in over the last few months, I applied to be a MVP, and here we are.
Well, congratulations on that. And you and I,
Thank you.
we were actually together in person last week at the Kentico MVP Summit, summit that they host every year. Get all the MVPs together, and we we talk product, we talk security, we talk technology, we talk marketing, all the things. I love the way you just framed it. To build better digital experiences. So, let's maybe start there, Roel, and just kind of talk a little bit about Kentico, what's coming down the pipe. What were the highlights for you from last week at the summit?
Good question. One of the things that I find really impressive is the way and the momentum in which they are now putting out new refreshes, upgrades, and new stuff that goes into the product, which is basically it's amazing. If you're not the biggest software vendor out there and doing everything in-house, I think it's really impressive the speed in which they're currently developing Experience by Kentico.
Yeah,
That,
looking in the rear view, it's really interesting because it's their 20th anniversary this year, actually, and
yeah,
that's quite a bit of staying power for like a small but mighty company like Kentico. And if you look at their product history, they did all these big bang annual releases to get up from version 1, 2, 3, 4, et cetera, over the last 20 years. In the last 4 or 5 years, we've seen that cycle tighten a little bit to be like quarterly instead of annually. And now
yeah,
you're absolutely right. Like they've adopted the latest and greatest .NET, living and breathing inside of .NET 8, which allows them to do more like truly bite-sized feature increments with those monthly releases that they're processing today, which is really cool for us in the digital experience arena because it gives us a lot of tools on an ongoing basis to like have tactical and strategic discussions about what any given client might need from their digital experience.
yeah, absolutely. And just from an agency perspective, we've struggled a bit in the beginning because,
Yeah.
well, usually we used to live on those big updates where a client would have to spend, I don't know, 250, 300 K just to get upgraded from version A to B.
Right.
So it was a bit daunting to say goodbye to those big upgrades and do it in a more refresh style that they're doing it now.
Yeah.
However, it works like a charm. Companies save a lot of budget, which we can then use to do actual cool stuff.
Yeah. Right.
So there's no real money lost there. It keeps us as an agency closely aligned with companies because there's at least a quarterly reason to do additional work, etc.
Yep.
And they really feel that they're getting value out of their license because there's a frequent update towards their specific product. So it's all good.
Yeah, no, I think we maybe even talked about this last time we connected, but sometimes it's just about a simple conversation, right? It's just like you just like that quarterly refresh is just an excuse to like have a discussion about, you know, what's in the hopper? What are our goals still the same? Are we still chasing the same objectives? Is what we're doing working? Do we need to reevaluate it?
Yeah.
Sometimes, like, simple conversations like that, just, they start to unfold into longer term roadmap planning. And those
Yeah.
features that Kentico is releasing on a monthly basis then become the foundation for, how do we ultimately implement, execute, drive value.
Yeah, and you actually touch on a valid point there, because what we do is, which with every refresh that we do, we take some time out of those conversations with our clients to talk about experience by Kentico, because probably a lot like you, we have a lot of clients on Kentico Experience 13,
Yep.
and not that many on experience by Kentico
Yep.
yet. So having those quarterly meetings with your clients with regards to the refresh also allows an additional sync on where Experience by Kentico as a product is now,
Yep.
and on what kind of term we should start building towards revamping their platform to the new product.
Yeah, and maybe for those listening, it's what Roel is describing is sort of a natural problem. It's a natural byproduct of software advancing. So yeah, exactly. We do have a lot of clients still on KX13, Kentico Experience 13, and that's the case because it's been on the market for 5 years, and Experience by Kentico, as sort of the next generation, little bit newer to the market, but we actually have a number of projects that are already in flight adopting the technology. We actually had our first go live last Tuesday, and I think
Nice.
over time, as these feature refreshes, these monthly packets start to accumulate, then it makes more sense for Kentico Experience 13 clients to migrate into that latest versionless style of the product that Kentico is championing today with Experience by Kentico.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. One of the other things I really like about Kentico as a company and the MVP Summit as well is the actual willingness and the amount of investment that everybody at Kentico shows during the summit to talk us through innovations, have deep dive sessions on specific topics, and just being open and willing to learn, take our comments and improve their product and strategy from those sessions. I
Yeah,
think that's valuable, I
yeah.
think.
I mean, I think my favorite part of the summit personally was being jammed in the back of the van with my legs in the wheel well while sitting next to you for 3 hours on our way to Prague. But what
You
you're
are
describing is
very
is my
welcome.
second favorite part of the summit, interacting with jokes aside, it's incredibly, incredibly powerful being in the same room as the team members that are living, breathing the product every day, right? So we met with
Yeah,
engineers, we met with architects, we met with marketing, and just being able to sit face to face and say, "This is what our clients need from
yeah,
Kentico." Like it's such you could tell it was like they were absorbing all of the feedback that we were offering in order to pour it back into the product and drive value from the software itself, which I think is I've always felt that the Kentico community as a whole is very unique in the way that we interact with each other. I mean, in another world or in another life, you and I even may be considered competitors, right? But in a
yeah,
room like the summit meeting from last week, you would put all that to the side to say, how can we make Experience by Kentico better for our clients communally because we're better together, and having access, having conversations with the product team, everybody that's participating and pushing it forward. I mean, it's just such a cool experience, I think.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's everybody within the company. You could see the CEO pop in for a short conversation, or the CFO to hop on a tour through Brno, where the office is. They all take part in it. It's a
Yeah.
real, um, it's a humbling experience almost.
Yeah. So for those Kentico employees that are listening, thank you for sacrificing your evenings for us. Thank you for spending time with us. It was incredibly appreciated, and just immensely productive for a week. Uh,
Absolutely.
so, Roy, maybe let's transition a little bit. I think in the midst of the summit, and then sort of prepping for this, you and I talked about just digital experience as a whole, some of the trends that we're seeing today. Some of the things that you had mentioned were like sort of driving decisions for your clients, driving decisions as larger strategic initiatives. Things like improving customer experience and consolidation, total cost of ownership, I think came up. Would you mind saying a few words of just like, you know, in the digital experience realm, how are you seeing these things manifest in day-to-day conversations with your clients?
Oh, that's a broad question, but I'll try to divide it into some smaller pieces. I think the common denominator between all of our clients and potential clients is that they would really like to improve on their customer experience. That's probably the biggest reason to make any changes, um, which automatically kind of ties into different topics. Like if we need to future proof our website, or we need to get a hold on our TCO, otherwise things don't make sense. And also the consolidation part is an absolute trend that triggers replatforming. There's a lot to be said about the reasons why you would want to replatform. Looking just at consolidation, it's becoming more and more a topic with potential clients for us. Most of them have been looking at a headless solution, right?
Okay.
They were previously on whatever WordPress kind of thing, or something else. As the market in it as its whole is saying, oh, you need to go headless, you need to go composable, you need to do this, you need to do whatever. That's where the initial focus goes into, right?
Sure. The marketing at work.
Yeah, exactly, right. Which vendor can scream the loudest?
Yeah.
And then they dive into that technology as an option, only to realize that, wait a minute, we as a company are absolutely not able to make this a viable solution for us, because we're not able to maintain 10 different tools, or upgrade all of them individually at separate times in the month, or whatever. And that's something that a lot of people overlook when diving into the whole headless technology
Sure.
hype almost. And that's where consolidation comes into play. Because what I really like about Kentico's philosophy is that they're saying, hey, if you want to do headless, or you want to connect to separate tooling or whatever, here's the opportunity. But you can do it from a platform that has far more features and capabilities than building your own individual fully composable stack. And that really resonates with a lot of our clients and potential clients, because it gives them more hold on, this is what we could actually achieve, and this would give us the best of both worlds. And I'm obviously not saying that headless is not the way to go. There's a lot of companies that would really benefit from that kind of solution. But on the flip side, there may be even more businesses out there that would not benefit from going fully composable, but would really benefit from Kentico's new proposition being a hybrid headless solution.
Yeah, and I think one of the important things that you're touching on is in those headless implementation opportunities often don't resonate well with marketers. And they often don't resonate well with marketers because a lot of times the problems we're trying to solve with a new digital experience platform or some sort of digital transformation effort is like to give the marketer and the business user more control. And And certainly, these tools, the more pure headless style tools, they've advanced themselves in order to satisfy marketer requirements. There's still just such a heavy amount of developer intervention required from a maintenance perspective. And
Yeah.
it's almost the opposite of consolidation, right? So Kentico's built this hub of content management, some marketing, the CDP, and personalization. Well, in other systems, if you want that, you have to go pick it up and build it in, and pick it up and build it in, and all of these different purpose-built MarTech tools then become part of a larger ecosystem, which doesn't always enable the marketer unless they want it to. And that's sort of the value proposition, at least that we talk with our clients about with Kentico, with Experience by Kentico specifically, where, hey, you have this really solid base. So all the stuff that you want to do to manage your content and speak to your customers the way that they want to be spoken to, you can do that. But if you also still want to go pick some stuff off the shelf, you can do that too. You're not, you sort of get the best of both worlds in that respect.
Yeah, fully agree. It's a philosophy that it may take some time to resonate, or
Agree.
for
Yep.
businesses to understand where it sits between traditional monolithic DXPs and fully composable.
Yep.
But as soon as you get the opportunity to talk to them about how their marketing processes look like, how digitally advanced their content editors and marketers are, and how they would benefit from a solution like Experience by Kentico, then it immediately makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know. It's sort of interesting, and then it's probably a byproduct of me having some blinders on too. Even I see what I see. I don't experience everything else, but I don't often have clients that say like, I want headless. It's a byproduct. It's a byproduct of other things at play, and somehow that's what they arrive at. What I do hear so much more is like, I want to be able to edit my own pages. I want to be able to do personalization, and headless becomes it becomes like a solution discussion as opposed to like a goal discussion. And by solution, I mean like it's a technology thing. So, and then naturally we transition into conversation about like total cost of ownership, because in those scenarios, oh, you want to do personalization? Well, we have to pick this other tool. And instead, this consolidation effort, well, that's already built into the Experience by Kentico feature set. So if you want to do level 1 personalization, you already have access to that.
Yep. Absolutely true. And another thing that may be slightly overlooked is the risk of doing a lot of shadow IT. As you probably know, that a lot of marketers tend to use their own tooling.
Sure.
Without ever having discussed this with their IT department. Think like, I don't know, landing page builders or some smart measuring tool or whatever. In a fully composable situation, having that kind of shadow IT, the risk of it only increases. Whilst in a product like Experience, for example, a lot of stuff is already there. So you don't need to worry about marketers needing tens of different tools just to get their job done as best as possible.
Yeah, and there's even some neat stuff coming too, right? That we're seeing pop up in some of those other types of tools that you're describing. So, one of the biggest ones for me is like the AI capabilities. 2023 probably was the year of AI, where it sort of became this much more novel, but mainstream sort of idea to generate content and learn insights, and all these tools now have it. Experience by Kentico will have it in short order as well. It already has it today in some capacity, but it's coming more. Do your clients ask about more sort of novel, bleeding edge style tools like this as well? Does that fit into the composable conversation much on your end?
We have a lot of clients that want to do something with AI.
Okay.
but have absolutely no idea what to do.
Yeah.
That's been a real that's been an issue for a lot of them because they feel the urge and the pressure to start working with AI. But what's the thing that we're gonna do? Um, so it usually ends up in basic stuff like some chat functionality or whatever, and so there's not a lot of cutting edge
Yeah.
demand coming from the market, but being able to tell a client, hey, with your product or with experience by Kentico, in the near future, you will be able to leverage AI towards getting more grip on what's happening within your customer journey, being
Yep.
able to improve on specific touch points just from an AI perspective. That's that's the kind of thing that makes a difference.
Yeah. Historically, Google Analytics has had a feature called Insights, where it would
Yeah,
basically flag to you, hey, you had a lot of bounce rates, or you had about a lot of bounces on this day on this page, or hey, your traffic spiked on this day on these pages, and that sort of thing. And like the power of what you're describing is like bring that closer to the marketer, closer to the business user, close to where those interactions are actually happening. So inside the system, you can actually like go look at that page and say, oh, well, this button is broken now for some reason, which doesn't actually happen, but maybe, but you have it at your fingertips to actually just adjust those things on the fly with this panel of information next to you. And to be clear, I don't think we know yet how it's going to play out, right? We just know that it's coming. We haven't seen we've seen the preview, but some of these features that help with customer journey, not anomaly detection, that sort of thing, we anticipate they're coming.
yeah. That's absolutely true. And then one of the main things that we see with regards to AI and our clients is that they, for example, would have loads of gated content
Yep.
as a membership organization, or maybe even being a sort of a legal institute, and wanting to use something like Azure AI search, for example, to get content out of those gated documents, and using that to either improve customer experience or do a incentive program almost to give a free bit of information, then have somebody subscribe as a part of their funnel,
Yep.
turning their own content inside out and having that leveraged by AI towards a public facing piece of content is probably for the most part the AI stuff that we're currently doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And you touched on something too that's almost a parallel point, like this idea of future proofing, because AI sort of unlocks or is a key for us to create more evergreen style content, right? And so in those business scenarios that you're describing with gated content, we can just constantly be producing content or content variations that meet our business goal at a fraction of the effort, which is I don't know, really powerful, super powerful.
Yeah, I fully
Yeah.
agree. Tapping into the first session that we did together, success will depend on how well a marketer understands is his own business or
Yep.
his or her own business,
Absolutely.
and the proposition. Because I was gonna say peep in, peep
Yeah,
out.
yeah. That's a perfect callback. Yeah. Well,
But
now we don't have to beep it out. You did it for us.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're welcome. But that's still an issue, right? If you don't understand your own business, but you have all these great tools like AI,
Right.
what's the success rate going to be? So, and that's something a lot of businesses still struggle with. Yeah, we want to use it, but how? How can we leverage at its best? It's not as easy as it sounds, because yeah, there's the capability, but how to leverage it, it's a different story, and you really need to also be able to imagine the possibilities for your specific business.
Yeah. So there's really like dimensions or layers to it. It's like this is my perceived maturity. This is my actual maturity, and this is the
Yeah.
maturity that I want to have in the future. And the reality today might be garbage in, garbage out. But in the future, right, the first step is recognizing, well, let's make some changes. Let's make some alterations so that it's no longer garbage in. And the output then helps us align with that future or goal, maturity, which so often is aligned with different KPIs or success metrics or the individual pieces that we're measuring to make sure that we're pushing the business forward.
Agreed. Absolutely.
Look, one of the other things, Roel, that came up last week, some of our conversations, this idea of like an omni-channel project. You're
Mhm.
omni-channel marketing. Are you seeing much of that today in terms of like practical application, practical execution of marketing objectives? Y-
No.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like it's one
No.
of the. It seems like
That's
it's one of those buzzwords, right? That still exists, but omni-channel, it's still, of course, it's still relevant, but it's maybe always part of that perceived future maturity where I may have
yeah.
chosen or selected key channels, not omni-channel, but key channels, right? So I've got my digital web presence. I'm doing email, and that's like a primary channel. Maybe I'm doing a little bit of social, but some of the other channels that historically make up a marketing mix, maybe those aren't part of the equation. They aren't part of my current reality. Would you say that's fair?
Oh yeah. 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 I've only seen a couple of truly omni-channel successful implementations and strategies. For the most part, a lot of businesses feel or think that they're really into omni-channel, but
Yeah,
they're basically just working with a solution that has siloed data for all of their different needs and channels.
right.
Um, but just because we can leverage several channels within a solution, let's call it omni-channel,
Yeah,
keeps the stakeholders happy, but it's not obviously.
yeah,
And looking at the new Experience by Kentico product philosophy, that's where you start getting multi-channel
yep.
strategies that will actually allow you to repurpose content assets throughout all your different channels. And that's going to be a major step forward.
Yeah, I agree. Even for little things like microsites, right? The ability to reuse primary web channel based content that you're managing a single time into now a purpose-built experience that's maybe more conversion oriented or landing page oriented for specific campaigns, initiatives, maybe supporting that email initiative that I mentioned. The efficiency in management, I think, is something we're like really looking forward to capitalizing on more and more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed. And what you see here is that the Kentico philosophy really comes close to a full headless solution, but it's not. It's giving you
Yeah.
best of both worlds, right?
Yep. Still web first.
Yes, you can repurpose content and use it in different channels, but there's a central content hub keeping all of your content nicely together. With the refresh that came out today, there's classic folders allowing marketers to organize their pieces of content in a structure that they feel comfortable with. Um, and it's just another fine example of little things that Kentico does in order to actually make a difference in the life of content editors and marketers. Whereas a lot of other vendors would state that they do it,
Yep.
scream it almost, but it actually doesn't really.
Well, and I love that we've sort of come full circle here, right? Because you're calling out the refresh that came out, and we're getting them at a much greater velocity now, right? So it's like this is the value that we spoke about in motion, allowing a
True.
marketer to do this organization now within the product in a actual real tangible way.
Yeah. And we work with a lot of other vendors, and it's the little things that make a difference.
Yep.
The ease of use of the centralized content hub, for example, which really fits how a content editor likes to work, or being able to really personalize all of the screens, or basically the UI for a content editor to fit a specific purpose at that time, and not boring them with several additional fields that they don't have any use for that specific purpose. It's the little stuff almost that makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. We obviously have the same conversations here and at our agency and with our clients as you do with yours. We refer to it as quality of life, right? It's all those
Yeah.
little things that add up to just a higher quality of life for all the time you spend inside of the content management system, the DXP, and those little things are ultimately what make all the difference.
Yeah, I agree. And obviously, all vendors need to focus on decision makers in order to get their product across.
Sure,
And they'll all state that they're in it for the content editor and the marketer. Bottom line, it's basically usually an argument to get stakeholders to buy that specific product. From my opinion, with experience, you can actually see that it makes a difference. And I'm pretty hands-on. I've worked with Kentico for a lot of years for all of our corporate communications and marketing. I really like working with it. And that says a lot, because I've seen a lot of different marketing tools over the years, and they're not all that good.
and part of it, right? And this is sort of woven throughout all the conversation we have. It's single vendor built, right?
Yep.
You like doing it, you like working in it because it's not stitched together from all sorts of other acquired technologies. It's purpose built by the teams that we spoke about earlier, the teams that we spoke to directly at the summit, to to give you that quality of life, to allow you to like to work inside of it, which is,
Yeah.
I think a neat and unique part of the Kentico value proposition.
Yep. I fully agree. And would a best of breed specific built solution work better for specific businesses? Yeah, it would.
Sure.
But having a all-in-one single vendor built solution is going to work for at least 80% of the market out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. This has been just, I think, a really awesome conversation from Summit to just all things digital experience. Any last comments or questions before we close out here?
If I were to mention one thing, I would say that I really look forward to the next steps within the Kentico product, as
Yeah.
in more marketing features like the whole automation part, and obviously commerce coming out later,
Yep.
because that will make it a even more um, whole product. Does that make sense?
Yep. 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 And maybe we can save those for our next discussion.
Let's do that.
Perfect. Well, to all our listeners, thanks so much for joining us for another episode. Roel, thanks for joining us as well. Good to see you again. And we'll see you on the next episode.